Hi to those just joining. Welcome. We're just going to give it a few seconds for everyone to join. So while you're waiting, please feel free to use the chat box, introduce yourself, your role, what organisation you're from. Brilliant. Okay, hopefully that's most people joined. I'm sure we'll have a couple of others trickling in as we begin. But yeah, if you've just jumped on, welcome. Please do use the chat function to just introduce yourself, your role, and what organisation you're from. And we're going to kick off. So welcome everyone to the Systems Change Community of Practice. This is something that you may have been part of before, or you may be brand new to it. We have had quite a few different versions of the Community of Practice over the last few years, but we're trying to sort of revamp the format a little bit to respond to what we're hearing around wanting to share more with each other about what systems change actually looks like in practice and the kind of experiences and opportunities and barriers and challenges that we might be facing. Fimin, would you mind moving on to the next slide, please? So just by way of introduction, if you're new to MPC, we are a think tank and consultancy with purpose. So we work across and with lots of different organisations in the impact sector to deliver the kind of systems change that we need to achieve a lasting positive impact in our communities. I'm Jess Weir. I'm a principal consultant at MPC, and I work across lots of different types of projects that include a bit of strategy development, a bit of systems change practice, a bit of learning partnership type stuff, a bit of everything. I'm joined by my colleague Firmin. Firmin, do you want to just introduce yourself quickly?
Hi everyone, my name's Pamin. I'm a senior consultant at MPC. I work across a wide range of projects, but have particularly been working on a lot of systems change related projects and come from kind of a law and policy background. So very, very passionate about systems change.
Brilliant, thank you. So today, the focus of our session is really on trying to unpick the concept of systems change. It's going to be a combination of a bit of discussion. We're going to hear from a guest speaker, Tim Fitches from Sport England, and then we're going to have an opportunity to break out and share some kind of thoughts and perspectives in small groups. For the breakout, we're planning to use a Miro board. So while I'm talking right now and doing the brief introduction, you may have seen that the Miro link is in the chat. Firmin's also just shared it again. Please do just have a little click on it, make sure you can access it, and just flag any challenges that you may be having in the chat. Or when I take a pause before the breakout, I'll check in as well. So when we are, the kind of focus for today is to think about the realities of systems change. So it's a widely used but often kind of abstract concept, and it creates a lot of challenges in kind of practice and delivery in terms of, you know, translating it into your strategy or your decisions, or defining your role in the wider system and making deliberate choices about the way you operate in line with that. The expectation for today isn't to sort of answer those questions or nail any of that, because obviously it's very, very dependent on the types of systems that you engage in or where you are at on your systems change journey. But the kind of plan for today is a session about practical insight. What does it mean really in practice, and what are we learning or finding out from our experience of that? So, you know, bring your curious brain, ask prompting questions of each other, but this is really just about sharing from practice so far and kind of what we're learning. So that's broadly the overview and expectation for the day. I'm going to hand over to Firmin, who's just going to run through a couple of other kind of concepts and definitions, and then we'll move on to let Tim share his experience. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jess. So before we get started, we really didn't want to kind of go into a deep dive academic kind of concepts or academic debates or definitions in this session, but we wanted to set a bit of a kind of, I guess, foundation or platform of shared understanding of what we mean when we say systems change. So without getting too technical, when we're talking about systems change in this session, what we're talking about is influencing the root causes or conditions that are holding a problem in place rather than just helping people deal with the symptoms of a problem. So if you kind of look at this very simplistic diagram, on the left-hand side, I guess traditionally, charities and organizations are often just directly helping people affected by a problem. Whereas on the right-hand side is more of a systems change approach where you're an organization, but you're kind of trying to influence that broader system around you. You see yourself as part of the system, as well as also helping people affected by a problem. So they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. You can be doing both, but it's kind of taking that broader lens. And often we refer to the 6 conditions when we're talking about what conditions are holding a problem in place. So again, without going into too much detail about what these are, we often think about policies, practices, resource flows, relationships, power dynamics, and mental models as conditions that are basically causing a problem to stay in place. So they're not necessarily always the root causes of a problem, but they're not doing anything to create a better system. They're not doing anything to solve the problem. They're just kind of things that are there that are holding the problem in place. There are lots of different versions of a system. So in any one person, just as an example, could be working within a school system. They could also be working within a local system. And then there's kind of a broader national system around them. And so there's kind of scales of different systems could apply to any one topic, but then we also could apply that to lots of different topics. So you could have, for example, the education system intersecting with the care system, intersecting with the youth mental health system. Again, we're not going to try and get into a debate today or a deep dive today on what system each person here is operating in. I guess the main thing that we wanted to emphasize is that across this session, I think we had about 100 people sign up. I'm not sure exactly how many people are on here, but across this session, a lot of you work across different systems. Some of them will intersect, some of them won't intersect. We aren't kind of trying to solve particular systems. What we're talking about today is, I guess, ways of working systemically that will apply broadly across all of these systems. So kind of different tips and practical insights on how to work, regardless of which of these kind of boxes or shapes that you fit in. And kind of last, I guess, key messages we want to emphasize and the mindset that we want to take you into the discussion today is 3 things. So one is we hear a lot about systems change in this sector now. People throw around the phrase a lot. We say that rather than just saying the word systems change, try and be specific about what you mean. So this session should give you some ideas and maybe some inspiration around particular actions that people are doing or particular ways of working that enable systems change. So instead of just saying the phrase systems change, maybe refer specifically to what you mean. The second key message that we want to emphasize is that it's really important to have a shared understanding of what you mean when you say systems change when you're talking about it amongst your colleagues. So again, today in the discussions, you'll see in the breakout rooms especially that people have completely different things that they're thinking about when they're thinking about systems change. So it's important that you try and get on the same page when you're going away from today, talking with your colleagues. It's important that you're trying to get into the same page of what you mean by systems change when you're discussing it. And the third thing we say is that you can take a systems thinking view to most impact work. So again, often what we're hearing in the sector is sometimes systems change is talked about as this separate thing, this special art that only some people are an expert in or some organizations do and some organizations don't. What we say is it's not about doing systems change or not doing systems change. It's about taking a systems change view to whatever impact work that you're doing. And that's kind of the lens that we hope that today helps you take, regardless of what different activities you're doing in your role or your organization is doing more broadly. So hopefully it encourages you to take that systems thinking, I guess, perspective or put on those systems thinking glasses to whatever you're doing after today. So that's kind of all we wanted to say, just by way of setting a foundation in terms of concepts. I think now we're wanting to hand over to Tim from Sport England to just give us some practical examples of how Sport England has been looking at systems change, to give us a bit of inspiration before we head into breakout rooms and discussion. Tim, over to you.
Thank you so much, Famin. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for welcoming me this afternoon and letting me be among you for this event. I've been very much looking forward to it. So let me just share my slides. Marvelous. Hopefully, can I just get a verbal confirmation that you can all see that okay?
Yeah, we can. Thank you.
Fantastic. So thank you. My name is Tim. I work at Sport England. I've been here for about 10 years, but actually working in our physical activity system for close to 25 years now. And I've been at different parts, different layers, different organizations in that system. So I think without realizing it, I've been learning about systems change all this time. And so today I'll share a few personal views and perspectives on how it's taken hold. If you don't know who Sport England are, we are an arm's length body of government, a quango in old money. Don't hear that word much anymore. So we support community sport. And you might recognize, or you might see our logo at your local gym or sports centre or tennis club. The photo here is my local tennis club. And our role is to increase physical activity in England. And please bear that in mind as we go through the presentation. We'll come back to that. So my session here is about 15 minutes. It's split into 3 parts. So I'm going to take you through Sport England's journey to becoming a systems change organisation. Then I'll take you through an example of our biggest investment programme to show you systems change in practice. And then at the end, we'll have a bit of fun looking at how we can all lead and influence systems change. So for this first one, I'm going to illustrate this evolution by referring to our last 3 strategies and then highlighting what has changed across the 15-year time span. So cast your minds back to 2011 when we published this. The London Olympics was on the horizon. The government wanted to use that to get more people being active, and they tasked Sport England with helping them do that through our strategy. So the aim was to get more people active, and we tried to take the shortest route to doing that. We were trying to pay organisations to get results. There was a performance management culture there. It was all about delivery and targets. If the target was missed, the funding was stopped. So I've got a sporting analogy for each of these 3 strategies. And this one, you probably heard this phrase before, but it's, maybe we were hitting the target, but we were missing the point. The point became clearer in hindsight. It's that by working this way, we were encouraging unhelpful ways of working. So we were encouraging competition between organizations that actually had a shared purpose. We were encouraging short-term thinking rather than long-term strategic thinking. And it led to gaming to hit the targets. If you know your next funding allocation is tied to hitting your targets, you'll find a way to hit those targets. So if we move forward to the next strategy, even the name here, Towards an Active Nation, shows that it was still pointed at national physical activity levels. Again, it followed a government strategy, but this time we were starting to be more targeted in the places and the audiences we wanted to support. We started working with a wider scope of partners, and we made some conscious changes to the scope of who we could support. So we lowered the age range of who we could support to 5+. It was 14+, and that meant we could work with education a bit more and schools. We expanded the types of activities we would support so that we could now support types of walking and cycling. That meant we could work with transport. And we developed really strong partnerships with the health sector. So there were signs of systems change taking place. And the best sort of visual I've ever had about systems change is that where the arrows used to be pointing in different directions, it was about trying to point them in the same direction. And for us, this meant that we could work with transport to develop walking and cycling routes. We could then work with healthcare for GP surgeries to prescribe physical activity on those routes to people who would benefit. And we could work with schools to promote active travel to school. So signs of systems change, but it was still a top-down, target-led strategy. And the sporting analogy here is kind of treading water. Like we were working hard, but kind of getting nowhere. The same inequalities were still present, and we weren't making headway. So this brings us to the current strategy, Uniting the Movement. You'll see straight away, this is 10 years, twice as long. is independent of any government strategy. It's a strategy for the system, not just for Sports England, and it presents a long-term vision that is informed by the needs of local audiences, local groups, local communities. There is some delivery still, but it's mostly systems change. So the sporting analogy here is the volleyball huddle at the start. Finally, we had an imperative across the system to work together towards a common goal. So I asked myself what changed across these three strategies. A whole lot, it happens. Firstly, we had an increasingly longer leash from government, which meant we could respond more to the needs of our sector. We saw organisations that had been in competition start to work together for the common good. Fantastic. We saw short-term funding, thinking, delivery, evaluation move to longer-term thinking, which could support strategies and systems change. Gone was the sort of top-down pressure and bureaucracy. Well, not gone completely, but it was starting to be replaced by more bottom-up work that was led by the needs of communities. Targets and outcomes and numbers were now complemented by more learning and reflection. Where once government had looked to us to be solely accountable for the nation's physical activity levels, that became a shared responsibility, recognising there were external forces at play as well. Obviously, over 15 years, we accumulated a lot of wisdom and insight and perspective. And then, of course, other external forces. COVID exacerbated inequalities. There was a lot of societal concerns, like Black Lives Matter, women's safety, safeguarding crises. Sport needed to respond to these, but it couldn't do it without taking a systems approach. They were just too big. So that's our journey. I'll just pause for breath. You can see how our new strategy heralded a new approach and the reasons that got us there. To show you how systems change in practice happens for us, I'm going to take you through an example of our biggest investment program, which is called the System Partners Investment. So to break it down, this is what it is. So Sports England is investing £600 million over 5 years. This is a new investment designed to support systems change. So the reporting, the relationship management, the evaluation, everything about it is designed to encourage collaboration and open relationships. The money goes to 137 partners, sort of three families, but very diverse organisations. So every county has a coordinating physical activity organisation. 52 of the sports we work with, like the FA or the Lawn Tennis Association, and then 43 wider partners. An example might be the mental health charity Mind, organisations who can use sport to deliver their own mission. That money is spent on improving organisations, governance, safeguarding, and so on. It's spent on intentional systems change activities, and it's spent on grassroots delivery, clubs, coaches, sessions, facilities, and so on. And there's a logic here. These things don't happen in isolation. It's saying that if Sport England can work in this way, we can help organisations to improve in such a way that the system becomes stronger and it creates the conditions for sport and physical activity to offer a better experience and to reach more audiences. And that helps more people to be active. So I'm going to hammer home a couple of these points with quotes. This one is about how we've reset the relationships we have with partners in pursuit of a common goal. And you can see from the quote there that we've moved from a transactional, top-down relationship towards one that is much more open and trusting. The partners are recognizing this. And then how long-term funding is ushering in a new way of working, one that isn't focused on short-term results, but on long-term commitment, iteration, and continuous improvement. So a quick word on the evaluation. You'll see a friendly face in the top there. We're working with three excellent partners on a major evaluation of this program: Ipsos, NPC, and Sheffield Hallam. It's helping us in all the usual ways an evaluation would, but we also have some really exciting stuff going on captured in this visual. So at the top, we have some exciting ways to help us learn and exchange what we're learning back into the system, back into different partners to help us improve. And at the bottom, we've got different ways, a whole curriculum to help partners and people at Sports England to grow the knowledge and skills to engage in the evaluation. Altogether, we're trying to shift the system and help more people be active. And this evaluation is critical to our practice. It's helping us and our partners to feed back what we learn into how we operate. All the next examples come from our evaluation. So I wanted to show you what it means for different partners. What does this investment mean? These are typical pen portraits. So NGB is a national governing body of sport. So for example, it might be a governing body who's just been a bit struggling with capacity and systems. This investment means they can invest in staff, invest in better systems, helps them keep pace with the growth of their sport, and helps them feel more stable for the future. One of the national partners, for example, this investment has brought them visibility and legitimacy to when they turn up to work and the partnerships they enter into. This is helping them build stronger partnerships and connect better with their communities. And then active partnerships are the county organisations. Your county will have one. This investment has helped them with a common goal to unify local stakeholders, to build partnerships and bring in further funding to their work. We're seeing systems change happening in different ways. So we're seeing it happen between partners that used to work in isolation. They're now joining forces. This example shows how a national disability partner is working directly with the sport to make their coaching offer more inclusive and more diverse. We're seeing systems change happen within the wider community. So our partners are working with schools, with community groups, with local businesses to build a more coherent approach to systems change locally. And we're seeing systems change happen by targeting the right people. So it's not just about knowing the right organization, it's about being tactical and engaging with the right teams and the right individuals who can bring the energy to make systems change happen. And we're seeing from the evaluation that these system partners, diverse as they are, have adopted 4 key roles. The first is the improver. So these are partners who are raising their own standard and others by promoting best practice. That might be in workforce or diversity or leadership, for example. We have the influencer. These are partners who are shaping local and national conversations, advocating for change, championing the message. We have connectors, people who really get the local system. They're building and guiding relationships, connecting and convening partners, bringing people together. And we have the deliverer, partners who are expanding, adapting and diversifying the way that sport is delivered so it can reach new audiences. These 4 key roles interact and they reinforce one another and they work together to drive change across the system. Bear with me on this slide. This is quite a lot of information. So this slide is based on our theory of change. So let me just talk you through from left to right what it's showing. It's saying that if Sport England can carry out this role to promote collaboration, provide long-term funding and set compliance, system partners can strengthen, the initial change is that, to the ways of working and the relationships we have. And then in yellow, organizations are getting stronger. The system itself is working more closely together and then creating the conditions for communities to enjoy better access to sport and physical activity, which leads to a change for society. All supported by those 4 roles around the outside and with acknowledgement of the external forces going on as well. So the last point in this section, remember back on the first slide when I said that Sport England's role was to increase physical activity. But it still is, but look at everything that has to happen for us to get there. Systems change enables this change to happen, and systems change enables it to be sustained. So thank you. We're on to the last little section here, and I thought I'd have a bit of fun with this one. If you're here today, you're probably already leading and influencing systems change. And I wanted to enlist the help of Roger Hargreaves to help us explore this. What do we need to lead and influence systems change? Well, we need to be curious. We need to listen, to observe, to notice things, interactions, relationships. We shouldn't turn up with the solution. We should help others to find the solution. We need to be brave. We need to resist that dash for short-term results. We need to influence upwards, even if that's uncomfortable. We need to try new things. We have to take it slow. We have to be patient. Like systems change doesn't happen overnight. It is a slow burn thing. We have to hold our nerve and take our time. It's incredibly messy, so you've got to say yes to the mess. It's easy to get lost, but that's what systems change is. So Little Miss Sunshine, bring the energy, be the sunshine, bring the energy to the meetings, follow the energy from other people as well. Be strong, be intentional, be focused, keep your eyes on the end goal, and that's what can guide you out of the mess when you need it to. Be wrong sometimes. We can't succeed without failing, so try, fail, learn, improve, go again. Be a good human. Be compassionate, be humble, be vulnerable, empower others. And finally, don't forget to sprinkle your own personal magic on all of this as well. And then the final point, this is a diverse cast of characters, and we've got to lean into that diversity as well. The more diversity, the more ideas, the more perspectives, that can only be a good thing. So that's the end of my session. I would really like to thank you for your, for letting me talk today, for trusting me with 15 minutes of your time. We've covered Sport England's journey. We've covered an example of systems change in practice, and we've looked at how we can all lead and influence systems change. Please do get in touch with me if you would like to. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Tim. I don't know if you could see, but there's lots of reactions coming through the chat, lots of claps and hearts and things. I think that was a really great session. And yeah, just thanks again for your time there. We don't have very long before we break out, but I did just want to hold a couple of minutes if anyone's got any burning questions.